All right, hello everyone. We're going back to the ascent of Mount Carmel. It's raining outside, or rainy. And so here we are. I have my electric blanket. I just had a coffee. Usually I'm like, I hike for an hour to read for us, and then I'm freezing sometimes. Sometimes it's really warm. I'm in Southern California, so. All right, let's go back. This is a book from the 1500s by St. John of the Cross. It's where we got the dark night of the soul from, the phrase, the dark night of the soul. It's from this mystic, this Christian mystic. I welcome all people. I think we all have, Plato said all learning is just remembering. So we all have a memory of wanting to know the beautiful and wanting to know our Creator and wanting to be united back in love. I have my heart necklace upstairs, I think. Anyway, welcome. This is where we were. We were on, I have a chip clip for us. Chip clip. I hope you're well. Enjoy, relax with me. I love being in nature. Hopefully, maybe the wind will blow those, and the dog's eating her food, so she'll come over and bring some nature to us, because it's just nice to just look around and listen. But I'm sure we'll get nature in the book. It just is what it is. All right, so, let me turn the light on. It looks a little, I have a ring light, that's what's reflecting. But let me turn the natural light on. When I wake up early in I was just learning the Beatles song, I'm Only Sleeping Again. I did a teaching of that last week on Instagram. If you want to see just a live, I went live. I was wearing a red sweater, I think. And it's like, I'm only sleeping, and then you're actually waking up to enlightenment. But all right. So we're in book 2. This is called The Ascent of Mount Carmel. I do this to show we're starting. Hold on. Let me see which. Yeah, that was the last time. All right, so book 2, chapter 20. But I always say, just trust that you're here for a reason, and that it's just amazing opportunity that we have to enter into this book from the 1500s. I love going to books that are from a different era. Hold on, let me see if this will keep working. If I can plug this in, if not. From a different era, because then they're just not so, I like the natural. They're not so bound by the culture that we're in. Look, and so I like that. I hope you do too. So welcome. So number 5, we were on this number 5. The one before that, he was talking about St. John of the Cross. So if someone's made into a saint, we're all called to be saints. If someone's made into one or called one officially by the church, then they lived a kind of truly noble life, and they contributed in such a way as we all are called to, just by being our God-given selves, by waking up to what that is. But I was just listening to a book called Awareness, and he was like, don't try to awake anyone. That's not your business. And I'm like, oh, that's so refreshing. Because you feel like, if you didn't have parents that were awake in childhood, sometimes you have this neurotic feeling like it's your job to wake up the whole world, and it's not. That's why I'm saying I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. Like, if we're aligned with the Creator, who's love, then everything would be great. But no one has to learn that song, and you're just learning it yourself. So all right. So we were talking about, we are therefore not to imagine that the words or revelations of God, though most true, will be infallibly verified in their obvious meaning. So God will give people visions Just like you might have a dream, and if you interpret that dream literally, it could wreck your life. If you just look at it like this, with an open hand and just be like, all right, well, I'll just let that interpretation unfold. Just like sometimes when I teach a song, like, come here, Leia. When I teach, come here, come on. When I teach, like, let's say, here's Leia. That song 13 by Big Star that my friend Elliot Smith used to sing all the time. Let me walk you home from school. Well, life is like a school. And he's like, let me walk this road with you. It's a really, really sweet song, especially when he was singing it, because I loved him, and I still love him up in heaven. Anyway, but you don't want to reduce all of life just to like everything's just a school. We have to be in school right now, or my dog, me hugging my dog or whatever is just school. No, like live life. You don't have to reduce it to just that meaning, but you'll see. I'm sure you already see in your own life. Welcome here. All right, so we are therefore not to imagine that the words or revelations of God, though most true, will be infallibly verified in their obvious meaning. For they are, by the disposition of God himself, bound up with human causes and are liable to fluctuation and change. Now, God's not changeable. Our understanding and interpretation of what was revealed to us might change. Like I was just reading about the angel of God, or whoever, the three men that came, I think it was three people that came to Abraham at the time, anyway, and they said, by this time next year, by the time of the season of a child being born, your wife will have a child. And his wife like laughed behind the tent door, and he said, why did your wife laugh? And she's like, oh, I didn't laugh. And he's like, yeah, you did. And it's like, because she was 99 or something, or he was 99, or I don't know. She was past normal childbearing eras. And she's like, will I be delighted with this pleasure at this age, And I think, didn't they name their child Isaac, which means laughter? Isaac, right? And he had Jacob and Esau, and Jacob's name was changed to Israel because Yaakov is one who deceives or is twisted. God has made straight. Yisrael means, the ones who find, I think it's, some people call it like ones who finally hear God, or God straightens them out. He shows them the straight and narrow path. It's really cool. One who was crooked, God has made straight. I read it in an old Torah commentary. But again, this is like a mystical view of it. Even the Hebrew language is a picture. So you can't just say that picture means this, but you can go, it's, a rainbow. A picture of a rainbow does not mean it's a picture of a dungeon. You know what I mean? It's not. And so you can't just put any, it's not completely subjective, just put any meaning on it. If you know C.S. Lewis and you read The Abolition of Man, he'll say like, no, that waterfall really is sublime. It's not just your opinion of it. It is. But anyway, that's a long story. So anyway, he sends forth his word and at times makes no mention of the condition, as in the case of Nineveh, when he declared distinctly that after 40 days the city would be destroyed. At other times he declares the condition, and as in the case of Jeroboam, saying, if then thou, ellipsis, wilt walk in my ways, ellipsis, keeping my commandments and my precepts, as David my servant did, I will be with thee and will build thee up a faithful house, as I built up a house for David. Now Jesus was in the lineage of David, so he built that house. And that house changed our whole world, right? Our whole world, by the God-man's yielding. I was just meditating on a verse earlier this week, something about like God is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. It wasn't that verse that was in the Psalms. It was like, there is a reward for the righteous or something, the people that walk in this right way. But even if you just think of, well, yeah, Jesus let himself be crucified at that time. That's how people were acting. And he let it play out upon himself. This perfect God, perfect man who did no sin. So death could not keep him down. And so he resurrected and offered this reconciliation between us and this perfect God. And so all of that happened. And so we know that he's like the example of this one reward of the righteous. Anyway, I this isn't a teaching video. Like per se, me doing all my teaching. Let's go back to the book. Number 5, but after all, whether God declares the conditions or not, we must not trust to our understanding of his words, for we cannot comprehend the hidden truths of God and the manifold meaning of his words. But also there's John 16:13, the Holy Spirit will lead you into all truth and show you things to come. So you ask God, lead, guide, and direct me, increase my wisdom and discernment. Lord, we ask that now, in Jesus' name, so that, in all your ways, it says don't in the Proverbs, right? Don't lean on your own understanding, all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your path. So you're not left completely just out there not knowing anything. That's the other extreme of this. Leia's licking me. Oh. Yeah. Okay. He is high above the heavens, speaking in the ways of eternity. We are blind upon earth and cannot penetrate his secrets. This is the meaning of Solomon when he said, God is in heaven and thou upon earth. Therefore, let thy words be few. That would be wise of us, right? God stops me a lot. Thank you. That's Ecclesiastes, chapter 5, verse 1, it looks like. It says VI. Roman numerals. Okay, number 6. Here perhaps an objection may be made. If then we cannot understand the revelations of God, nor enter into their meaning, why does he send them? I have already met this difficulty. Everything will be understood in the time appointed by him who hath spoken, and whom he hath determined beforehand shall understand. Sorry, I was just thinking about something. I just got an email right before this, so I'm like, wait, I gotta let that go. All right, anyway. Everything will be understood in the time appointed by him who hath spoken, and he whom he hath determined beforehand shall understand. And then all will see that it was right and fitting it should be so. For God doeth nothing but in truth and equity. It is therefore most certain that we cannot perfectly understand nor grasp the full meaning of his words, nor determine the sense of them to be what it seems to be, without falling into shameful delusions. This truth was well known to the prophets, to whom the word of the Lord was sent. To prophesy to the people was to them a grievous affliction. For as I have said, much of what they said was not fulfilled in the letter, and this proved an excuse to the multitude to ridicule and mock the prophets. Quote, I am, saith the prophet, made a derision all the day. All do scorn me, right? They would scorn the prophets. Because now long ago I speak, crying out iniquity, and I often proclaim wasting, and the word of the Lord is made a reproach to me, and a derision all the day. And I said, I will not remember him, nor speak any more in his name. So some prophets say that. This is Jeremiah. chapter 20, verse 7 through 9. Anyway, I like Jeremiah. My name is Cheryl Meyer, and one time I was falling asleep at this thing when I was a kid, this camp type of thing, and the guy yelled out, he's like, "And Jeremiah!" And I stood up because we had stayed up all night talking. It was all these, it was like a kids camp thing for the weekend, Bible vacation Bible school or something that your parents would send you to, or I don't know. And so he said, "Jeremiah." I thought he said Cheryl Meyer, and I'm like, yes. I'm like, anyway, but so Jeremiah, though, here he's being serious. He's saying, "You have me proclaim all these things, and then you forgive the people, and you choose not to destroy them at this time." And they think that, you see it in the Lord of the Rings. Gandalf comes, and they're like, you see it in the book. They roll their eyes, and they're like, "Because you always come with tidings of woe." And, and he's like, "Because I come at extreme moments in history to warn you to get up, and we have to fight Mordor. We have to fight Sauron, and Sauron turned bad, and he was good, and there's all these things going on, principalities that are higher, that are even ruling Sauron and ruling the things that go on in this world. But Jesus said, "Be of good cheer, I've overcome the world," right? So we do have that. That is a reality at the same time. So number 7, here, the holy prophet, though he speaks with resignation and like a frail man, unable to endure the ways and secrets of God, teaches us clearly the difference between the true fulfillment and the apparent meaning of the word of God. The people treated the heavenly messengers as deceivers, whose afflictions on account of their prophecies were so great that Jeremiah cried out, quote, "Prophecy is made unto us fear and snare and destruction." That's in Lamentations 3:47. Jonah, right? They call him Jonas in the 1500s in Spanish. Jonas fled when God sent him to preach the destruction of Nineveh, because he did not perceive the truth, nor wholly comprehend the meaning of the words of God. He fled that he might not become an object of derision to the people when they saw the prophecy not fulfilled. Also, some people say he fled because he didn't want their deliverance, because of a certain, that was a long Bible study that I was in, but anyway, who knows all of it. But he further stayed outside the city for 40 days, waiting for the accomplishment of his prophecy. And when he saw that it remained unfulfilled, he was greatly affected and complained, saying, quote, "I beseech thee, O Lord, is not this what I said then? I was yet in my own, it was small print. When I was yet in my own country, therefore I went before to flee unto Tarsus. In his vexation, therefore, he prayed God to take his life from him," right? So that's Jonah chapter 4. Right, so here's a prophet. And so number 8, is it then surprising that the revelations are not fulfilled in our sense? For if God makes known to anyone good or evil, relating to him or to others, and if the revelation thereof be founded on the obedience or disobedience of that person or the others, and if the facts continue the same, no doubt the prophecy will be fulfilled. But it is not, however, certain that it will be fulfilled in the letter, because the reasons of it may change, and therefore we must not trust to our own understanding of these revelations, but to faith. Okay, and so like in the Old Testament, there's a prophecy about a virgin giving birth to a child. And in Hebrew, it's the same word as a young maiden, but you see it, and you see for sure that all the things it said about Jesus were fulfilled at a later date. And so it's like, And they were also fulfilled of something that was happening in that era. And so they can have a deeper meaning. They can have like Abraham, like when God told David, King David, the scepter will not leave the throne. Like the David will reign from now on as you yield to me in righteousness. I don't know if that was conditional, but it was like King David's lineage only lasted for so long in some ways, but it lasts for all of eternity through Jesus, who was in the lineage of King David. He showed how a true king lives on this earth as a man and as the God-man, how to reconcile all of mankind to the kingdom of heaven, which we're all come from. So anyway, I'll let St. John of the Cross still talk about it. Like, I understand it in my heart and in faith and in my understanding, but it's difficult to put in words. And so I'll keep letting him do it. I'm like, I'll put the weight on him. Chapter 21. But that's part of why I'm reading it, is because it's important for this to be out in the world. In that book, Awareness by Anthony DeMello, that I was just listening to 5 minutes while I was having some breakfast. Yummy breakfast with a coffee. He was saying, you just do your dance. Just keep dancing in the rain, right? Keep doing your dance. And either people will get it or they won't get it. And you just continue to do your part. It's not your part to try to make people get it. You don't see Jesus on the cross going, no, you're all getting it wrong. Don't you understand? I came to die for you. He's not like shoving that in their faces. He's speaking to the people that are around him, like the thief on the cross that says to the other thief, don't you get it? This man didn't do anything wrong. We are dying here because we did do wrong. And he said, Jesus, remember me when you get to your kingdom. And Jesus said, today, this day, you'll be with me in paradise. Any moment we can let go of neuroticism and go, wait, God, today, Jesus, I want to be with you in paradise. I want to know this peace, this truth, this kingdom. I want to remember the kingdom from which I came. And return there. Let your perfection be my perfection in this moment, right? The whole Our Father, the mystic prayer that Jesus taught us, teaches you how to come right back to this moment and be reconciled to God in this moment. Because you're not, forgive us all our trespasses. Here's all the weight of anything we've done up to this moment. And as we forgive those who trespass against us, they trespass against the law of love and walked on us. But we're not meant to carry the weight of that, carry the weight a long time, right? Like the Beatles sing, we're not meant to. And so in that moment, you give it back up to God. Forgive us ours as we forgive theirs. Lead us not into falling into this temptation again of stupidity, of the word sin means to miss the point of life, to miss the mark of perfect love. Like, help us, lead us not into that, lead us out from that and deliver us from all evil. How does it start? Our Father, Mother, Psalm 27:10 shows that, who art in heaven. He's doing art in heaven. He's more than he and she. Who's in this heavenly realm, this realm that's above ours, that inspires and shows ours, and shows our hearts what is true, reminds our hearts what is true. Our Father who art in heaven, holy is your name. Your kingdom come. The word is queendom, actually, basileia in Greek. And Shemaiah, is that's for the skies, I think, in Aramaic. But anyway, your kingdom come. Your will, your perfect will of perfect love be done on this earth. We were made out of the earth. So on this earth, this place that I live in, as it is in heaven, like align it to heaven, bring us up to that place of living. It reminds me of that poem by Rumi when he says, out beyond wrongdoing or right doing, there is a field, I'll meet you there. It's like, it's not saying that there isn't right and wrong. It's saying God who is perfect love is in this field of being. Like, bring me up to that one. Help me remember that. And I'll always, my brother calls it the Nemean lion. You have this higher will in your Nous, noetic will, and it keeps you above doing wrong and right in this world. It's hard to put into words again, but your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Give us the manna we need from heaven, the Jesus Christ we need, this holy bread to feed us, so we know that we don't need to grabbing hands, grab all they can. That's a Depeche Mode song, I think, but it's like, we don't need to grab for all these, looking for love in all the wrong places. Give us the bread we need, our spiritual sustenance and our physical sustenance, so that we can be detached and know and not act from a place of fear or lack. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us all our trespasses, like I already said, as we forgive those who trespass against us. All our offenses against perfect love, as we freely let it go ourselves. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. Amen. That's the end of that. So Jesus taught us how to enter that state. That state goes right back here. That state is one of loving, of knowing, of kindness, of truth, of justice at the same time. You're not calling something bad good. You're not. Anyway. All right. So, but it is not, however, certain that it will be fulfilled in the letter, because the reasons of it may change, and therefore we must not trust to our own understanding of these revelations, but to faith. Forward action in trusting him is one way I learned about faith. You're just walking forward. Chapter 21. I just sang about that a couple weeks ago on Instagram in a live. It's Everything But the Girls song. It goes, am I walking to you in everything that I do? Am I just walking to you? Anyway. Tracy Thorne and Ben Watt. So now I remember their names. I couldn't remember in that moment, but that's who sings it, a band called Everything But the Girl. God is at times displeased with certain prayers, though he answers them. Illustrations of his anger with such prayers. Okay, we'll find out what those are. Chapter 21 here. Some spiritual persons, as I have said in chapter 18, persuade themselves, not reflecting on the great curiosity which they often display when they seek knowledge from God in supernatural ways, because their prayers are sometimes answered, that their conduct in the matter is good and pleasing unto God. So they think, because my prayer was answered, God was just being merciful. It's just kind of like if a child, a daughter asked her daddy, like, Daddy, can I please have this candy? And he knows he ought not to give it to her, but because she's just like in that moment, he doesn't always just give in to the moment, but because he loves her, but he doesn't want to set this precedent that she always ought to ask in that way, or he always ought to ask his daddy that way, But nevertheless, he's just in his mercy because she's 4. She doesn't know better yet, She's not trying to manipulate her dad on purpose or anything, And so anyway. Nevertheless, the truth is, notwithstanding the answers they receive, that God is offended and not pleased. And more than this, they provoke him to anger and displease him greatly. The reason is this: no creature may transgress the limits which God hath appointed in the order of its being for its rule and guidance. He has ordained for man's governance certain natural and reasonable laws, the transgression of which is therefore not right. That is not walking in righteousness. That's why we have to say, forgive us our trespasses, because we're trespassing on the true law of love. Objectively, it's not subjective. When someone steals from you, they are objectively taking something that is not theirs, and that is a transgression. And so to say it's not is to lie. To forgive them and show them mercy might be something you can choose to do, but that's why it's called a mercy. That's why we say, forgive us. Give love before we've deserved it or earned it. Forgive. Don't excuse. You're not excusing. So God is just still. The reason for it is this: no creature may transgress the limits which God hath appointed in the order of its being for its rule and guidance. He has ordained for man's governance certain natural and reasonable laws. The transgression of which is therefore not right. Now, to seek anything by supernatural ways is to transgress these laws, and therefore an unholy and unbecoming thing, and displeasing unto God. Number 2. Well, we'll find out what that is. You will object and say, why then does God, if he is displeased, answer such prayers at all? I reply, the answer occasionally comes from the devil. Wow. But when God answers, it is out of condescension to the human weakness of him who will walk in that way, that he may not become disconsolate and go back. So you're not completely just crushed because a dad says to a 4-year-old, you asked that in the wrong way. You're not meant to have candy before your dinner. How could you? And then we just become crushed in our spirit. It says, don't crush your children's spirit. And go back to our old way. We don't want to do that. Or that he may not think that God is angry with him, or that he may not be tempted overmuch. Or it may be for other ends known to God, founded in his weakness, in consideration of which God is pleased to answer him and condescend to him in that way. So in that way, God might be pleased to condescend, because it's just like saying, okay, I have this on my cup, wink, wink. And sometimes it annoys me that part's on. I love all the rest. Be mine, bear hug, you plus me, kiss me, all that equals love with God, right? He's like, be my sweetheart, right? There's the word sweetheart at the bottom, right? And so, but in the book of wisdom, it says God winks at our sins. And it's not like he's saying, it's okay, wink, wink, no big deal. It's not like that. It's like sometimes he's just like, all right, let me just give her some candy because, giving her this little pack of gummy bears is not going to ruin everything. And I want to teach her to be in that spirit of continuing to ask her papa, her daddy for her Abba, for her needs, for what she thinks she needs, even though it's better for her to ask for something else. I want to teach her by degrees how to ask for that something else. And sometimes he's pleased to condescend because, there's that verse about, remember that we just come from dust. And even in I think it's in Psalm 19, King David, he says when he's writing that song, it's a song in Psalms, how can we even know the offenses that we cause to God? Not all of them. He's like, so keep me from my hidden faults and keep me from the obvious ones, that they do not get dominion over me and that I lose my way. I lose this way of love, of walking in true love. So you put that back on God and say, help me, be my good shepherd, because sheep will just keep eating the grass until they go off the hill, I think. I don't know. And so you ask God, and then you keep doing your part all the best you can and ask God to help you. I'm always like help me with my part, keep me in your hands, your everlasting loving hands. And sometimes just don't excuse the sins. Just don't let me be crushed forever when I see, oh my gosh, that was not the kind thing to do. That was reacting from some trauma in my childhood and making everything so heavy for that person. And I never meant to do that, right? Or make it heavy for myself, right? Anyway, he deals in the same way with many weak and delicate souls, giving them a sensible sweetness in their converse with him, in their conversation with himself. Not because he delights in this, or because this way is according to his will, but because he deals with everyone according to his capacity, his or her capacity, that capacity of that person. So he is capital. He deals with everyone according to little his. Oh, that's from playing my guitar. I was like, what is that? Anyway, it's just playing my guitar. It's all. Anyway, number 3, God is as a well from which everyone may draw water according to the measure of his vessel. And he sometimes permits us to draw it through extraordinary channels, but it is not therefore necessarily right to make use of them. So, like, give us this day our daily bread. What each person of us needs of that bread today, of that magical sustenance of God. It belongs to God alone to determine this, who gives how, when, to whom, and why he wills, without respect of persons. He sometimes inclines his ear to the prayer of those who cry to him, and because of their goodness and simplicity, succors them. He comforts them and comes to them, that they may not be made sad, and not because he is pleased with their prayer. The following illustration will make this more clear. A father covers his table with diverse meats, some better than others. One of his children asks for one kind, not the best, but the first that presents itself to him. The first that's on the table. I want this one. And he doesn't see the better that's better for him or her. He asks for it because he likes it better than any other. His father, seeing that he will not take of the best, even if he offered it, and that he would not have any satisfaction in it, gives him that he asked for. No, anyway, the enemy will give us counterfeits and pretend like it's the real love or the real thing. That's not what's going on here. To distract us for years, if he would, on something less than what God would have for us. Anyway, he gives it to him that he might not be left without food and disconsolate, but he gives it sorrowfully. Such way God's dealing with the people of Israel when they demanded a king. He gave them a king unwillingly, for that was not good. That was not for their good. And he told them that your king is going to take 10% of all of what you make or whatever. And he's going to take your young damsels and they're going to be cooks in the castle, and your young men and they're going to be in his army, and blah, 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 all this stuff. And they're like, we don't care. Give us a king, because everyone else around them had a king. And God was saying it will distract you and make you, idolize that and think that that's going to save you when I will save you every time, and so it created all these problems, but nevertheless he conceded. And so it says, quote, "Hearken to the voice of the people, saith he to Samuel. They have not rejected you, thee, but me," with a capital M, "that I should not reign over them." All right, this is 1 Kings chapter 8, verse 7. It's a pretty sad verse right there. But anyway, it teaches us a lot about how we operate in our flesh nature. He condescends in the same way to certain souls, giving them that which is not for their greater good, either because they will not or because they cannot walk with him in the better way. Like, at least not yet, And if at times these souls have a tenderness and sweetness, spiritual or sensible, he gives it to them because they are not disposed to feed on the strong and substantial meat, the sufferings of the cross of his son. Like, they don't know that yet or don't have place to understand that. Jesus said, you can't put new wine into an old wineskin. It's like you're growing this new wineskin so that all of this, he says he wants to give, and he's in Ephesians 4, some 6, more. No, Ephesians 6 is anyway, more abundantly, at 4:28 maybe, more than we could possibly dream or imagine he wants to give us. That's the inheritance of those who are called to be his saints. But he has to increase our capacity for more love, right? And because we don't recognize it, anyway. It is his will that we should cleave thereto rather than to aught else. Thereto rather than to aught else. It is, in my opinion, much worse to seek for the knowledge of events through supernatural ways than to seek spiritual sweetness in those of sense. So, like, basically, I think he's saying, like, to go into the occult and try to, or ask God, you have to tell me the future, blah, 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 blah. Instead of going, God, please, will you comfort me today? My heart is so heavy. And then he gives you like an XO on a license plate in front of you, or, some billboard, or some song comes in when you're at a diner or something that's like, anyway. Will remind you of the sweetness that really is God, because God is love. Number 4, I do not see how I can excuse from sin, at least venial, those persons who do this, however good their intentions and great their progress and perfection. I say the same of those who bid them persevere in this way, or who consent to it. Wow. So spiritual directors are saying, keep looking for it in this way, right? There is no necessity for their acting thus, because natural reason, the law and teaching of the gospel are sufficient for our guidance, and there are neither wants nor difficulties which cannot be supplied or remedied by them. And that more in accordance with the will of God, and more to the profit of souls. And so like I teach people how to walk in a psychologically healthy way with songs, let's say. But if I kept telling them only look for consolation of God through secular songs or something, I would be misdirecting people. Instead of, it's like if they just read John chapter 3 that day and meditated on what's in the Gospels, what were the words of Jesus, that's going to console them for all of eternity and help direct them on the right course more than a song. But if they don't know about love and they listen to a song and learn more about being in stillness and in love, perhaps that will help them to receive the gospel. But always, he's saying the gospel is going to nourish them so much more. The good news of the first 4 books of the Bible and the news that's in it. The good news of Jesus Christ. He's for you. He is for you. He is for you. He's not against you. He's for you. Anyway, and God help me not to do that, and help each of us, right? That's just an example in my life that I know of. And I've just learned it even more today. So, we're held accountable for what we know. His father, seeing that he will not take of the best, even if he has offered it, and that we did that. So, such is our obligation to make use of our reasoned and of the teaching of the gospel. So we're meant to apply it, not just read it, that whether with or without our concurrence, if anything be revealed to us supernaturally, we may receive that only which is consistent with reason and the evangelical law. And we are bound to examine such things much more carefully than we should do if no revelation had been made. For the devil, in order to deceive us, utters many things which are true and in conformity with reason. So he uses reason. He appears as an angel of light. It seems reasonable. Oh, you ought to go to church 9 times a week, just to keep us super busy and trying to earn our worth from God, instead of, might be someone else does go 9 times a week, and that's what they ought to do because they're a pastor, a priest, or whatever. You know what I mean? And so, or they work there, or we don't know, they're going through some kind of grief, or some kind of grief is about to happen to them. Hold on. All right, anyway. Number 5, There is no better or safer remedy for all our necessities and troubles than prayer and hope, by which God is moved to provide for us by such means as are pleasing unto him. All right, one moment. This is the counsel which the Holy Scripture furnish us. When King Jehoshaphat was in deepest affliction, hemmed in by his enemies on every side, he betook himself to prayer and said, as we know not what to do, we can only turn our eyes to thee. Yeah, I remember that. We had that in a Bible study with that woman. I forgot her name. But he says, wisely, king was in deepest affliction, hemmed in by enemies on every side. And he's just like, he said, as we know not what to do, we can only turn our eyes to thee. So he's asking in faith, God, what can we do? Because we can't see a solution. So God can provide one that's above anyone we can imagine. So when everything fails us, when reason is powerless to suggest relief, we can then lift up our eyes to thee only, that thou mayest provide for us, as it shall seem best to thee. And St. John of the Cross added that part, but it's the same vein, the same line. That's from 2nd Paral. They call the book a different book in the 1500s. 20 verse 12. You can look up King Jehoshaphat and find out where that is. Second. I don't know what book he's referring to, but it's in the Bible because we read it in this. Maria is her first name, I think. The woman that was in War Room, that Priscilla, her name is Priscilla Shriver. She taught us that in a book on. I don't remember what the Bible study was, but it was awesome. I think it was her. Maybe, now I'm seeing some other woman. We were watching these videos and mixed them all together. All right. So number 6, God too, though he sends answers to prayers thus offered, is angry. But notwithstanding the certainty of this, I think it will be well to show it from certain passages of Holy Writ. So Holy Scriptures. All right. So I share my house with certain others, possibly children. Anyway, so I'm just so private about stuff sometimes. Holy Writ. Okay, when Saul desired to consult the prophet Samuel when he was dead, he was dead, right? The prophet came at his request, right, through this medium and he had outlawed mediums. God, however, was angry with Saul, for the prophet rebuked him, saying, why hast thou disturbed my rest, that I should be brought up? We know, too, that God was angry with the people of Israel when they, and I'll tell you, that was from 1 Kings 28, verse 15. So that God was angry with the people of Israel when they corresponded with the event. Oh, wait. I'm sorry, hold on. Oh, when they asked him for meat in the wilderness, right? When they asked, I was meant to turn the page over. When they asked him for meat, he did give them meat, but he also sent fire from heaven to chastise them. Quote, as yet the meat was in their mouth, and the wrath of God came upon them, like teaching them not to ask in such a way. And it's clear they knew better in a way, like God had already rescued them from the 10 plagues, all the plagues, and walked them through the middle of the sea and drowned all the army behind them without them fighting. Exodus 14:14, be still only, and I will fight for you. Through their faith, they walked forward, and God fought for them. And then they're saying, well, we don't have meat like we used to have when we were slaves in Egypt. And it's like, really? You're going to, instead of going, God, we really do miss meat. Can we have some meat out here? Like, instead of just this manna, just, this nourishing thing that's like whey bread, like the lembas in Lord of the Rings, the elven bread. So that's in Numbers chapter 11, verse 4 and 33, and Psalm LXXVII 77, verse 30 and 31. And that might be Psalm 78 because they break up the Psalms in certain Bibles into one extra number because one Psalm was broken into two. So it adds a number to all the Psalms. Anyway, so he was angry also with Balaam, this prophet, right? When at the bidding of Balak, he went to the Midianites. Though God had said, arise and go, Balaam was bent on going and had asked permission of God, but an angel stood before him in the way with a drawn sword in his hand and sought to kill him and said, thy way is perverse and contrary to me. Right? He spoke through his donkey. Remember? Balaam's donkey spoke to him when the king Balak had asked him to curse a certain people, which were the people of God. Like he was not meant to do that. And he ended up, there's some sin of Balaam that's talked about in the book of Revelations. It goes really deep. It helped rescue me from a very difficult situation I was in. But anyway, that's Numbers verses chapter 22, verse 20 through 32, it looks like. It's cut off, so. And here's the other one. All right. In this way, and in many other ways, God condescends, but in anger, to our desires. He's like, fine, go ahead. And then his donkey is blocked. And the angel of the Lord, you can read it. It says, like, if your donkey had not stopped you and you he said to his donkey, if I had a sword, I would have offed you already, right? He was quite wroth in the moment, but he's like, your donkey saved your life, right? Because the donkey could see the angel, and Balaam, the prophet, who was a prophet of God, could not. Anyway, you can learn a lot from all that, the Holy Writings furnish us many other instances of this truth, but on which we have no need to enlarge in a matter so plain. Even people on YouTube that, speak what God tells them to speak, a lot of them will say you have to test every spirit, and you're not meant to run after what they're saying instead of a relationship with God. It's meant only to confirm what God's already been saying to you. Otherwise, it gets into dangerous territory. You're just running for consolations, and you're trying to insist that God has to console you in that way all the time. And God's not meant to be operated with like he's a genie. Like this world teaches you to operate with things just to use them, right? We're not meant to be transactional with ourselves and with others. Number 7, I have only to add that it is a most perilous thing, and much more so than I can tell, to converse with God by these supernatural ways, and that whosoever is thus disposed cannot but fall into many shameful delusions. He who shall apply himself to these ways will learn by experience the truth of the matter. For over and above the difficulty of not being deceived by the divine visions and locutions, there is usually the further danger of the devil thrusting himself in among them. Satan, in general, comes to the soul in the ways and methods of God, suggesting to it communications so much resembling those of God, insinuating himself as a wolf in sheep's clothing among the flock, so that he can scarcely be detected. Now, you don't need to be afraid of this all the time, but no, a wolf in sheep's clothing, is like a wolf that looks like one of the sheep, one of the innocent, not meaning any harm sheep. But he's coming in to take the sheep, right? Jesus said in John 10:10, the thief comes to, off and steal and destroy. But I have come that you may have life and have life abundantly. And he says, I am the good shepherd. And also the shepherds, they have the fur of that they shear off the sheep. So they're warm by having these clothes or whatever. And so someone might look like a shepherd. They're wearing the clothes of a shepherd, right? To look all innocent. And they have different intentions. And even some who don't even realize they have different intentions, if they're yielding themselves to the enemy in these different ways in their lives, they have openings so that the enemy can use them like a puppet to try to put you down or stop your purposes or distract you or whatever else. For as the evil spirit announces many things that are true, conformable with reason, and certain, men may be most easily deluded, thinking that as the prophecy corresponded with the event, it could be none other than God who had spoken, right? We think, right, well, but this handsome man is right here. Of course it's God who said he's my husband. Anyway, I'm not laughing about that because God can reveal someone's kingdom spouse to one of the people and not the other for certain reasons that God has. But the enemy can come in and pretend like someone else is. And it's God is still just and God will help you walk through all of this. Just keep looking to God. They do not reflect how very easy it is for one endowed with clear natural light to understand in their causes many matters which have been or may be done. Like someone, if the enemy of our souls, if the devil has been here for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, he knows how the chessboard works, and we might only see a few moves ahead of us. And so he'll come in, but don't worry. Jesus says, be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. Like God is bigger, and only 1/3 of the angels fell. So we've got 2/3 on our side, but I'm like, be on the side of the good. Like I encourage you, but I can't make anyone wake up, Like I want people in my own faith practice to wake up, but I got to let that go. Like just keep doing your dance, right? They do not reflect how very easy it is for one endowed with clear natural light to understand in their causes many matters which have been or may be done. Such an one will accurately guess at many things to come. And as the devil is endowed with so clear a light, he is able to infer such results from such causes, though they are not always such as he describes them, because all things depend on the will of God. Yay! Team Jesus wins. Every knee will bow and tongue confess that Jesus Christ is Lord. Is that Philippians? It's in Philippians, I think. Number 8, let us make this clear by an illustration. The devil knows that the condition of the earth and the atmosphere and the position of the sun are such that at a given time, the combination of the elements must, of necessity, occasion a pestilence. He will also know where the pestilence will be most violent and where least so. He perceives the pestilence in its causes. It is a great matter for the devil, in this case, to reveal to a particular person. Oh, is it? He's saying, is it then a great matter for the devil, in this case, to reveal to a particular person that within a year or 6 months a plague will come, which does come? Yet the prediction is diabolic, right? It's from the devil. He may also foretell earthquakes in the same way. When he sees the caverns of the earth filled with air, he may say an earthquake will come at such time. This knowledge is natural. Extraordinary events in the providence of God may also be detected in their sources, seeing that he, with a capital H, God, is most just in his dealings with men. We may be able to see in the ordinary way that a given individual, city, or place has come to such a state or difficulty that God, in his providence and justice, must deal therewith as the cause demands, either in the way of punishment or of reward, according to the nature of the case. Now, just in morning prayer this morning, we read in Genesis. Now, I can't remember what chapter that was. 14, maybe? I was sort of listening and I didn't get to watch that part on my screen. And I knew I ought to have. But anyway, it was talking about Abram, and God was saying, I'm going to go into Sodom and Gomorrah and destroy it. And Abram said, God, if there are 50 people that are righteous in that town, will will you save that town, not destroy it? He's like, yeah, if there are 50, I will. But he says, what if there's only 45 righteous people there? Okay, yeah, I won't destroy it if there's 45 righteous people there. And I was getting a vision while I was listening to that passage this morning in our morning prayer. It's in the lectionary of the 1928 prayer book, if you want to know, but I was listening to this recording of it. Anyway, it's like if there are 10 righteous people, he eventually got down to 10, and God said, if there are 10 there, I won't destroy the whole city because of those 10. And so it's like, if there are 10 people with the light on, right, and knowing this truth, then it can be like a domino effect, and it can still infuse like yeast in, like good yeast in dough to change the whole. Everyone can wake up to that consciousness because those logs are burning in that city, if you understand it that way. I was just seeing it a different way. I mean, I wasn't trying to, I was just being with them like, oh, so he just gave me that knowing, maybe for this, whatever. But it was like, it does make a difference. It says, the Lord rewards those who diligently seek him. And that it is, many are the rewards of the righteous, or something like that. It's like, not only do you get this peace because you're yielding yourself to these divine laws, and that's how we were created to operate, but you're also not polluting the community. You're bringing the light of God in that community, not because you're building your ego, like, I'm holy. It's not like that. It's like, no, let Christ keep shining in me. Like, let me be a window. Anyway. I gotta wrap this up. I choose to. Under these circumstances, we may say, at such a time, God will visit, or such things will happen, most certainly. We have an instance of this in Holy Judith, in the book of Jude, I think, Judith, okay, this is in the Old Testament, Judith, who when she would persuade Holofernes that the people of Israel must certainly perish, told him of their many sins and the calamities they suffered, and added, quote, therefore, because they do these things, it is certain they will be given to destruction. This is just what happens. It unfolds that way sooner or later. It does. It's just like if you watch someone spiral out on some kind of an addiction. It's like that addiction says anyone who sins becomes a slave to that sin. Like, it will lead to destruction. It just does. Because I was reading in a book yesterday from, I think, the 1100s, Matilda of Magdeburg. I have it upstairs. It's not here right now. And she was saying, the one who has no peace, the enemy, the devil, cannot give us peace. It's an illusion. He acts like he can give us peace. Here, I'll give you all this fame in Hollywood or wherever, singing and whatever, you can sing and God can raise you up. But, when you make a deal with anyway, it's like, and then you'll have peace, because then you'll have all this wealth and fame and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, someone who does not have peace, the enemy of our souls, cannot give us peace. Only God can give us that peace. And it's not worth having unless we have it with the true peace. But you get to decide that, right? But anyway, she said, truly, certainly they will be given to destruction. Number 9, here Judith saw the punishment in its cause. It is as if she had said, it is certain that such sins will draw down the chastisements of God, who is most just. He wants to correct those he loves. The same principle is taught in the book of Wisdom, where it is written, by what things a man sinneth, by the same also he is tormented. So that was Judith, chapter 11, verse 12. I think that's it's in, it's in the Catholic Bible still. I know it is. The book of Judith. Apocalyptic writings, not just that. No, it's, I forgot what they're called, but they were in the Bible until like the 1600s or something. And then the Apocrypha books. Anyway, some other Bibles have them in them, and they just say these aren't exactly the same. in standard as the normal canon of books that some people decided in the council, anyway. So, and the other one is Book of Wisdom, chapter 11, verse 17. That book also is an apocryphal book for some denominations. And so the devil may perceive this not only naturally, but also by his experience of the like dealings of God. He may also announce it certainly beforehand, knowing how God operates and trying to, steal from that, because he steals anything he wants. And normal people don't think like him. We don't think that someone's going to be that diabolical. And so, anyway, it doesn't mean be paranoid all the time. It just means ask God to give you wisdom and discernment. And, to the pure, all things are pure. But God will, if you yield yourself like a child unto God, but he says, Jesus said, be shrewd as a serpent, innocent as a dove. Well, a serpent knows how to get out of a tight corner and is not attached to anything and protects its head. And our head is Jesus Christ. And so there's lots to learn in that. All right. Much love. Thanks for being here.